brave new Essex Book Festival, which, oh, sorry, suddenly a little thing flashed up. Now here we are on the brink of the new brave new Essex Book Festival, which come hail, fire or storm or anything else in between, will be running through until the end of August. It's a bit of a mad beast of a festival. Our events coming in all shapes and forms, extending from our new series of In My Steps Radical Walks in Essex, which was off the blocks today, with writer Tom King, author of the Thames Estuary Trail, leading fellow radical walkers across Wat Tyler terrain, through to our many library events across the county, including Monique Roffey, winner of the overall Costa Book of the Year with her fabulous book, The Mermaid of Black Conch at Chelmsford Library, and James Canton, author of this year's The Essex Read the Oak Papers at Colchester Library. We've got a swathe of writing workshops across the county, and our first international twinning between our pop-up Essex Writers' House, which is hosted by the fabulous team at Metal, with the Emerging Writers Festival in Melbourne. Super excited about that. We've got a swarm of storytelling digital bees taking flight under the direction of some young female coders the Essex Demettes in Southend's Old Waterworks. Plus an evening with musician turned novelist Matt Osman of rock band Suede fame, who will be talking about his debut novel, The Ruins, at Chelmsford Theatre, with everything coming to a fitting end at our inaugural Essex Book Camp at Cressing Temple Barns, the erstwhile home of the Knights Templar. But now, to the event at hand. We need to talk about Essex Girls. It gives me enormous pleasure to welcome three leading Essex girls to share their thoughts about what it means to be an Essex girl, the jokes, the misconceptions, and the growing movement to change those preconceptions. Step up, best-selling novelist, broadcaster, and founding member of Essex Girls Liberation Front, Syd Moore, whose latest book, Strange Tricks, of the Essex Witch Museum's Mysteries, launched earlier this week. Congratulations, Syd. You can unmute yourself, Syd.
Hey, thank you. That's a nice.
And festival patron and award-winning writer Sarah Perry, best known for her novel The Essex Serpent, which is just in the process of being turned into a new TV series. And yeah, exactly. Whoa. And who many of you will know is also the author of Essex Girls for Profane and Opinionated Women Everywhere. And I'm not meant to say this, but I'm just going to say this. This was my favourite book of 2020. Hi, Sarah. Yes, that's it. Read it, everyone. And finally, multi-award-winning columnist, co-artistic director, playwright and actor of theatre company Old Truck, the wonderful Sadie Hassler, whose plays have been performed all over the world from Oslo to Washington, DC and Sydney to Edinburgh. Hi, Sadie.
Woo! Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Sadie.
Thanks, Ros. That was lovely.
Just so we all know what's going to be happening today, Sadie, Syd, Sarah, and myself, mostly them, the three S's, will have a chat about all things Essex Girls for about 35 to 40 minutes, after which time we'll open up the Zoom room to questions from the Zoom floor. Please put your questions in chat and we'll do our best to get to them. Always a challenge. And if you have other issues, technical issues, can't think what other issues you'll have, but if you have other issues, send them through and Jo will do her best to field them at our end. Then very excitingly, we're going to be wrapping up the proceedings with some Essex Girl jokes that have been sent in kindly by members of Colchester-based Appetite Book Club and others. They're fantastic. I can't read them out at the end because I'm from Ipswich and I feel really uncomfortable and unentitled, but there we go. And the lucky contributors who have their jokes read out will be sent a mystery book in the post. So good luck with that. And that's it. That's the beginning. We're going to start the chat now. So Essex Girls, to the task at hand. Question number one is for all of you. You can talk over each other. Try not to, but we can do this. When do you think the Essex Girl thing first kicked off? Has it always been there? And what exactly is she? Sarah, I know you've written about it in Essex Girls for Profane and Opinionated Women Everywhere, and I've had multiple conversations with Syd. So who wants to go first? Go on, Sarah.
Go on, Sarah.
Well, it's a really interesting question, and I think there's more than one answer to it, and it kind of depends on which lens you're looking at the issue from. So you can look at it through the lens of general historical misogyny, and this is where Syd is a particular expert and has been really enlightening to me with her work and her expertise on the Essex witches, and how we can trace that kind of horror of women have a kind of power that sits outside social norms and religious norms, going all the way back there. And Syd's the one who kind of taught me more about that. But when I wrote about it in Essex Girls, I was really interested in the very recent iteration of Essex Girls. And the phrase itself is really new. It wasn't used in print until 1990 in the Daily Telegraph. And it's no surprise that it was used in the sort of socially conservative right-wing newspaper to demonise women who were not bowing down to those socially conservative norms. So who were having babies out of wedlock, possibly by more than one father, who were earning money of their own accord, possibly by working up in the city. So the location of Essex as being kind of very near the capital is very relevant. And so there's something really interesting happening where historically women have always been like the social football that can take a kicking. And what interests me about the contemporary version of Essex Girls is that the right wing can give her a kicking because she's using social housing and she's sexually incontinent, and the left wing can give her a kicking because she's vulgar and capitalist and likes kind of diamond jewelry and display. So that's what excites me about the origin of it, that it's a kind of 360-degree loathing.
Yeah, well, Sarah, I completely agree with you. And what you were saying about the left wing and the right wing is really interesting as well. I went to a symposium, actually, I think, Ros, it was part of the Essex Book Festival a few years ago. It was at Essex University. And there was a really interesting speaker who was talking about the Thatcherite Swing. So obviously, when Simon Heffer coined the Essex Man title to explain the swing, I think of Basildon, wasn't it, to the Conservatives. And that's theoretically when Essex Girl came out, theoretically, and the Essex Girl was the Essex Man's girlfriend. But this speaker was talking about sort of that kind of thing, and how Thatcher had worked in Manningtree. She'd been a scientist, I think, or a chemist, and she'd worked around there, and she made a lot of this. She made a lot about working in Essex. So Essex Man, Essex Girl became quite aspirational, which meant that they were not only sort of betraying what the working class should do, they were also part of the South as well. So the kind of the northern Essex working class were able to look down on them, and so was everybody else, because they were too aspirational. They were getting too big for their boots. And I think that's when it became very mainstream. But before then, you know, I know quite a few women who were older than me who said they had been called Essex Girls. And I remember as well, sort of in the late 80s, when I was working in a bar, and I'm quite blonde. I think I was blonde then, and I think I was a bit busty as well. And Sam Fox was in the charts with, you know, Touch Me, I Want to Feel Your Body, all of that. And there was the Essex Girl was becoming a thing at that point. It was the odd kind of, you'd be throwing it to put you off, to get you on the back foot. But then I heard as well that there was Essex Girls were used to describe land girls as well in the 40s. So that was, and I don't know if that was just regional or it became a kind of southern kind of term. But of course, as Sarah mentioned, you know, I have proposed a theory, which is that the Essex Girl stereotype has kind of grown out of the persecution of women as witches from 1580 onwards, because Essex was actually known as Witch County at some point, because we had so many people who were accused. You know, I don't know if it's Gifford, but one of them has said there was not a village in Essex that did not have 1, 2 or 3 witches in it. And of course, we lost loads of people, mostly women and girls, to the various witch hysterias that occurred from that point to 1680. And it was when I was looking at the characteristics of the witches, and I noticed that they were all mostly, not exclusively, but at the low end of the social status scale. They were also unable, when they were accused, they were unable to speak for themselves. They had to have a man speak for them in court, any man, cousin, son, but also, you know, certainly in the Matthew Hopkins hysteria, most of the men were away fighting for Parliament or for king. So they were also called loose, which meant that they weren't under the shelter or the protection of a man. So just putting those things together, just really briefly, just looking at it and going, okay, low social class, loose and dumb, that certainly sounds like the contemporary stereotype to me. And I just wondered if it was possible that the tides of time had not washed that stain away. But when the Essex girl reared her big blonde flossy head in the 80s, she was then, everyone went, ah, yes, I've heard that there's something weird about those girls of Essex. I knew it, this must be it. And the stereotype was taken up very decisively at that point. Sadie.
Yeah, Sadie.
Sorry, I was just listening so back there. I love it when Syd talks about Essex women. I think the thing that came to my mind when you were just talking, Syd, was when you explained to me the meaning of the word glamour.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard it before. And I think that really kind of, you know, that's how Essex women are seen, you know, the way they portray themselves, and yeah, that kind of cliched appearance thing that we all get tarnished with. You know, if you go out for the night and people say, oh, where are your stilettos and stuff, and you just think, yeah, so tedious. But yeah, that word glamour I always thought was fascinating when you spoke about that, and it being a spell or a charm. Yeah.
And I think as well with so the glamour, for people who don't know, it used to be a magical spell. It was aligned to fairy magic, and a glamour is what you performed to make yourself look better than you were. So if an upper class man got a peasant class woman up the duff, then his usual response could be, she glamoured me, you know, because of course I wouldn't look at a peasant class woman. No, she glamoured me. And there's another form of glamour which exists or has been chronicled in the Malleus Maleficarum, which was produced by Kramer and Sprenger. It's like a witch hunting guide, really. And glamour in there is a spell that witches use to make male members flaccid and not perform properly. So if a man had if a man had basically erectile dysfunction, then it was a witch. It was a witch. So, you know, so glamour, you've got it sort of connected to sex, but it's the woman's fault. And glamour, you've also got this idea of magical deceit. And yeah, and I think actually if you align those with the contemporary stereotype, you think of, you know, it just brings on a new kind of a layer of thought to it. And also glamour was always used to be the kind of what's the word, I'm trying to find the area, the equality, the ownership or something, but it was only the elite, the aristocratic, who could be glamorous. And then when sort of glamour became slightly more mainstream, I guess, when you started having the pin-up girls in the 50s and during the war, and when glamour became, ways of making yourself glamorous became accessible to all classes, including the working class, then glamour took on this slightly tawdry thing. You started hearing about glamour models, and that kind of, that taint was upon it because it had become accessible to the working class. So yeah, bring that all into this contemporary stereotype. And I know your question, Ros, was what is she now? And I think actually she has been seen as all of those things, but it's because she's been seen as all of these things, because Essex women have had all of this to put up with, they're actually even stronger and even feistier and even more confident and defiant than they ever were before. So yes, and I'm totally with Sadie and Sarah with the idea of like reclaiming the term Essex Girl as something completely different, but something to be proud of.
Yeah, and that's something that's quite interesting, because Sarah, in your book Essex Girls, you talk about you have reclaimed your Essex Girl identity. There was a time when you were uncomfortable with it. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, I should say I was home from Chelmsford, but I had quite an odd upbringing. So I was brought up in a deeply religious home that to a certain extent kind of prevented me from accessing those elements of the Essex Girl identity that are traditionally associated with being an Essex Girl. So I wasn't allowed to wear makeup or to wear glamorous clothes or anything like that, because we were, strict Baptists, and it was kind of very kind of like quite drab, very sexually kind of repressed atmosphere. But even then, if we went anywhere outside of Essex, then and someone said, "Where are you from?" Even then, as a long-haired, kind of plump 15-year-old in handmade, long, drab clothes, they would still say, "Oh, you're an Essex girl, where's your white stilettos?" And the first thing I did, and I'm really ashamed of this, was to try to distance myself from it, because I thought, I'm not an Essex girl. I'm an intellectual, strong-willed, independent person who wants to live by my wits. I ain't no Essex girl. And so I tried to dispense with the accent, to dispense with the identity, and I'd been fooled. We have Essex women and Essex girls have had a terrible con trick played on them, which is that these are all things that we should say we're not. So we cannot be tricked into saying, "Oh, no, I'm not sexually voracious. I'm not vulgar in my clothes. I don't like to drip diamonds. I'm not too loud. I'm nicely spoken. I'm decent." Why should we say any of those things? And I suddenly realised all of those qualities are extraordinary. They're all extraordinary. They're politically radical, actually. They're intrinsically feminist, having a voice, speaking up against the establishment. And I started to realise that in doing away with my Essex girl identity, I'd done myself a massive disservice. And actually what I should do was to turn those insults into compliments. So when someone says I talk too much, which I do, thank you. When someone says, my clothes are too, I spend too much money on clothes, on jewelry, I do, thank you. Yes, the diamonds that I've got, I bought them, like Beyonce. So it's about taking those insults and turning them around and refusing to apologise for them. And it took me 40 years, and I'm sorry that it took me that long.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same as you, Sarah. It was something that I just ran from for so many years, and actually it's only really been in the last few years, since getting commissions from Queen's Theatre in Hornchurch to write plays that challenge the notions of Essex and try and look at all the positive stuff. That's the first time I've actually explicitly thought, oh, hang on, number one, all this is absolute nonsense. I knew it was all nonsense, but I still kept running away from it, and I would never hold my hand up and say I'm an Essex girl and be proud about it. And now, since I've kind of processed so much stuff and look back at my childhood of not having much money but being really lucky and getting to a girls' grammar school in Southend. Syd went to the same school, and I think there must have been something in that sort of feeling of being quite privileged to get into a school like that, because you're very aware that not everyone can go, and it kind of makes you think, oh, I've got to run away from the Essex girl thing even more. I've got to really step up to this bit of luck that I've been given, and this link to an alternative life, I suppose. And I do look back now and just think, oh God, you're such an idiot. You've really done yourself and other women a disservice. And so.
Well, I did it. Hands up. There, I did it. In the 80s, I did it. So especially if you were abroad and places like that, and people said, "Where are you from?" I'd say outside of London.
Yeah.
There you go, outside of London. But it was really when I came back to Essex after university, travelling around the world, living in London, and I had my son. I came back to Essex. My son's 18 now, so we're going back quite a while. And what I couldn't believe was that so I took up a position lecturing at the local college, and I couldn't believe that when my students were going for interviews, quite often the interviewer would open their file, look at their address and start off with, "Oh, so you're an Essex girl, are you? And, you know, really, when you know what the stereotype is, that puts that girl, that 17-year-old girl, on the back foot, because you either go, yeah, I am, and you confirm it, or you challenge it, in which case you're sort of written down as, oh, we've got a right one here, you know, bit gobby, challenging. And that's really when I started to think about it quite a lot, because A, I was just like, oh my God, is this still going? And then B, I was just like, really, this is just, this needs to stop, because it's not fair on the girls from where we live. It's just not fair. And that's sort of when I started looking at it and stripping away all of that kind of 80s morality about, you know, promiscuity. Is she promiscuous, or is she sexually autonomous? You know, she's playing hard like the boys, and she's spending her money and working hard like the boys as well, but she's choosing her own partners, and that is seen as something wrong. You know, I thought, we've got to change this. And actually, so Sarah, when I read your fantastic, available in most bookshops, essay on the Essex Girls, one of the things that you mentioned in there was dancing around handbags. And I didn't really know that was associated with the Essex Girl. I thought that was just like a sort of a nationwide thing that people picked on. But it really struck me, because I was thinking about, has anyone been to Amsterdam and been to the handbag museum? It's brilliant. It's really, really good. So they've got a handbag museum there. And actually, they sort of chronicle the evolution of the handbag in terms of women's emancipation. So it starts off with like chatelaine keys on, and then it turns, when women were allowed to go to balls, then they start having pockets. And then very gradually they start having handbags. And it's not till sort of the 40s, when they had to drive and do these other things, that they developed the strap bag, which went across the body so they could have their hands free. And I was thinking, you know, actually, and also there's this idea as well that sometimes, quite often, it must be a man who said this, but someone has said that this handbag, it could be a symbol of the womb, because women treasure it and they put their precious things in there. So I was thinking, okay, so if all of these women are at this dance floor and they're putting their bags in the middle, and they're symbols of the womb in the middle, and then they're dancing around it and drinking and having like a kind of Viking blotz, but without the blood sacrifice, unless they got Larry later. You know, of course, that is going to be so threatening to loads of people. And what do you do with anything that threatens you? Well, you just laugh at it. It's how you get rid of its power. You laugh at it. I'm going to stop speaking now.
Well, we've had a question which I'm going to put it now because I think it's really relevant, and I can't see who it's from. Hang on. Oh, and it keeps moving. Well, I can't see it. It's gone out of my chat. But basically, it's how do we dispel the stereotyping when the mainstream media keep going on about Essex girls? So, Syd, I was going to ask you about the Essex Girls Liberation Front, which I just love, just the idea of it. But what is it?
So, well, Jo is here actually. So Jo is another core member of Jo Ferrugia of the Essex Girls Liberation Front, and we campaign to take the stereotype of the Essex girl out of the dictionary. I'm just going to cough. Sorry, back. And we have had some success. So the Oxford Learners Dictionary, their definition was a young woman who lives in or around Essex, who is materialistic, unintelligent, and very willing to have sex. And the Oxford Learners Dictionary is for foreign students and for children. And so we were like, this really should not be in a dictionary. So we campaigned, and we've written to other dictionaries asking them to amend it, or to say that it's archaic and that it's offensive as well. And so that's one of the things that we do. And the other thing is that we are also trying to change the perception. And again, perception is really difficult because, you know, if you can get all of these definitions out of the dictionary, and the stereotype's still going to be there. So what we're trying to do is reframe it. So we've got loads of t-shirts saying this is what an Essex girl looks like. And we've got an exhibition at the moment in the Beecroft Gallery in Southend, where we've got loads of amazing different women who challenge this lazy stereotype every single way, and they're all wearing this is what an Essex girl looks like. So visually, just sort of smacks you in the face and just makes you go, ooh, I should stop being such a, you know, bigot about it.
Yeah. Nikki Wilson's asked a question. You've mentioned, oh no, it keeps going so fast. Basically, Nikki's asking, we've talked about the negative things about being an Essex girl. You know, what are the positive qualities we can celebrate, and how can we celebrate them? So I wanted to say to Sarah, because I absolutely loved the way you made the unusual pairing in Essex Girls of Harriet Martineau and Kim Kardashian. Could you say a little bit about how they got into, you know, the now canonical book on Essex Girls?
Well, look, I started thinking about this most seriously when I was giving a lecture on Harriet Martineau, and I decided that since a trick had been played on me by the patriarchy and by the media, then I would play a trick on the audience. And I asked the audience to imagine a woman who had suffered very badly at the hands of a man, to the extent that he had completely destroyed her reputation and destroyed her mental health, but that despite that, and despite the fact that she was from an oppressed minority that had been all but obliterated in a genocide, she'd become a very successful businesswoman in her own right. And this woman, from an oppressed, almost destroyed background, who had suffered so terribly, now campaigns for social justice and has been instrumental in ensuring that falsely imprisoned women of colour are released from jail in America. And I asked the audience to imagine who that woman was, and that woman is Kim Kardashian. And it is almost inconceivable to people that somebody who has made her fortune by her glamour and by her sexuality should also be somebody who has a very, very profound social conscience and does something about it. And so when we talk about how to think well of Essex women, I suppose the two things are to think about the qualities that we think of as being derogatory, outspoken, irresponsible, unreliable, whatever. That is also kind of radically political and makes you more likely to do that sort of thing. I don't know what Sadie thinks about it, but that's sort of how I would do it, I think, is to say that's not an insult.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, am I off mute? Yeah. I think it's definitely something that I do a lot more of now is, you know, kind of defend the people that people, you know, particularly Essex women, you know, because I did, when Towie came out, there was such a feeling of uproar amongst women who didn't feel they identified with those women on the programme and felt like they were just getting another fresh lot of being tarnished, you know, in the media. And for ages, you know, I had to review the first couple of episodes of Towie, and I was just fuming. And also I was really confused because I couldn't tell if it was real, I couldn't tell if it was scripted or whatever. So the whole thing kind of threw me. But yeah, you know, all those women, yeah, they're entrepreneurial, they're strong, they call the shots in their relationship, they call people out on their behaviour. You know, I haven't watched a great deal of it, so I won't speak too much about the programme itself. But I myself have had to put myself through the ringer as well and say, right, you cannot look down on these women anymore. Yes, you are not like them. You probably are in a lot of ways. If you were to meet up with them and have a night out, you'd probably have more in common than you think. But you don't have to be angry that people are doing this to you. You know, look at all these things as strengths and celebrate them and say, do you know what? I would much rather go out with those women than all the people that are looking down on all those qualities. Yeah.
And it's actually, so when we did we had all of the publicity for getting the definition out, one of the first things that any journalist or reporter would say to us is, well, what do you think about Towie? And we were like, why are you asking us that? What, you know, we're not in the business of criticising other women. We are behind them. And actually, you know, that if you think about it, they are being criticised because a lot of them are trading of the capital that they've got, which is their looks. And so what? You know, and again, you get that kind of like that they sort of, people look down at them because they wear so much makeup and they've got, you know, fake tat. So what? You know, it's like that glamour thing again, that they're being deceptive. You know, and
also that it's new money, right?
Yeah.
So this is just the most repulsive British characteristic that is the cause of such misery in this country, that still the British have an instinctive tendency to doff their cap to their betters. And this is why, you know, I'm not going to bother to conceal my politics. This is how we've ended up with the Tory government having an increasing approval rating when their idiocy and their corruption has contributed to the untimely death of 150,000 people over the last year. And yet still they go up and up and up in the polls. Why? Because we have been trained over, you know, since the Norman invasion, to think people who have old money, who arrived with the conqueror, are better than us, even when they're manifestly not. And so the reason people hate the people on Towie is because it's new money, newly arrived, you know, they're living in kind of large brick-clad bungalows with kind of plaster lions on either side of the gateposts, whereas, you know, that mansion had been bought off the back of slave trading 200 years ago, then good luck to them, and they can have as much damaged wallpaper as they like. So, you know, we can't disentangle this or anything from class. And you know, the loathing around Towie is so inflected with something that's so pernicious and so dangerous. I'm really sorry, I got really angry then.
No, I mean, it's an interesting thing, because I was actually going to ask the question, this is very much for Sadie, but how far do you think the Essex Girl trope has travelled internationally? Your plays are put on in different countries, and the same with Syd and Sarah, your books. What is the meaning of Essex Girls in other countries? Is it undimmed, or, you know?
I think people are still very aware of it as a term and as a concept. And you know, whenever I've gone away, people have always said, where do you come from? And if you do say Essex, there's always that little flicker in the eye that where they've heard something. And I haven't been away for a couple of years. But let's all take it as a lovely opportunity next time we're on holiday to test it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, Essex is quite similar as a word too. I mean, with the Essex Book Festival, I'm very aware that Essex sounds different from Cheltenham.
Because it's got sex in it.
Yeah.
Well, it has. This is true. Do you think it's not? Yeah, but so
well, you know, I'm thinking about this international thing. Firstly, I should say, I think every country has a version of the Essex Girl, because, you know, misogyny has no borders. So you have Jersey Girls, for example, in America, which is sort of the version of the Essex Girls, and they're kind of near the capital city, but, well, it's not the capital, they're near New York, but they're not quite New York. But the other thing I should say is, one of my great pleasures, sorry, I've just thrown an earring on the floor, just like classic Essex Girl behaviour. So one of my great joys is I'm very lucky to have a large international readership. And, you know, there's so many people who now knew nothing about Essex, and what they know of Essex now, they know through my work. And the book I'm writing now is a contemporary novel set in Essex, and it's my Essex, it's my version of Essex, which, you know, is this kind of amazing feeling. I was born in St John's Hospital in Chelmsford, and that hospital was built on the ground of a workhouse, and the workhouse was built on the ground of a barracks, and the barracks was built on the grounds of a leper colony. You know, that's my Essex, all of those things together. And so I think all of us, like Sadie's work, Syd's work, my work, together, we are building a new idea of what Essex is, and that noise, that song, will soon start to drown out that thin bleat of the insult from kind of decades ago. And I think that's our project. I can't speak for you all, but I think that's what we're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think what I forgot to say about the Essex Girls Liberation Front was that we kind of started it when we were doing I was doing an International Women's Day event quite a few years ago now, and a debate on the Essex Girl. And actually we'd had these asylum seekers who talked about their stories about how they got over here, and they'd come from the Congo and you know, places in South Africa, and had these harrowing journeys. But as soon as we mentioned Essex Girls, they all started laughing, and they'd all heard the jokes in those different places. And I was like, oh, God, right, we've got to stop this now. And so exactly as Sarah said, And you know, I know Sadie, and by the way, Sadie's in the exhibition as well, and I want Sarah to go in the exhibition as well. But we've got, you know, all of this. It's all about changing these perceptions, and it's about turning. What is the opposite of embarrassment? It's about being proud of where you come from, but it's about taking, and that I think is what in all our different ways. This is what we're trying to do, because again, you know, to a certain extent, I'm sure Sadie, Sarah, Ros, most of the women here that I'm looking at on the screen, I'm sure if someone called you an Essex girl, you could go, right, let me talk to you just 5 minutes. And like, you know, go at them and talk to them about it. But it's the younger women, who are like 17, 18, 19, who aren't confident, who you know, the power of balance is just withdrawn from them. These are the people who we need to help, who we need to give language to and kind of holler back to, and to, as Sarah was saying, you know, recreate this fantastic archetype of an Essex woman who we all aspire to.
I'm feeling that really, really strongly at the moment, because I think where we have been so pinned into place during lockdown, I'm very have heightened awareness to Southend and you know, my environment and everything, and with and you know, and having a 3-year-old daughter in lockdown, so it's been really intense, and I've got kind of gone back through a load of stuff, and now I'm just thinking, God, we do all have a responsibility to do this, because I'm kind of nervous about bringing up a young Essex woman. I'm kind of all geared up for it in one way, and I'm just like, yeah, bring it on. I will literally take you all down, and my daughter is going to be freaking amazing. But I'm also kind of nervous for her, because you've got no idea what kind of nonsense she's going to have to put up with that might still be around. And yeah, so I think that thing of, you know, older women kind of not leading younger women by the hand, because younger women are amazingly strong and amazing, but I think that thing of just being very, very aware that of the people that might not have the strength of voice that we've come to have through years of putting up with stuff, might just need that, you know, just us keeping an eye and speaking out. And yeah,
it's like clearing a path, isn't it? It's like literally clearing a path, getting rid of all the old rubbish, so they can walk ahead with less problems and obstacles than we had.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there's an aspiration to change the dictionary, what are the 4 words we're going to put in there for Essex Girls 20 years down the track? What are we going to read, and what are they going to be? What do we want those for? Everyone write it.
I feel really I feel really anxious about this, right? Because the patriarchy and misogyny is so embedded and is so strong that even when you try and define a woman in positive terms, it comes out misogynistic. So if anyone calls me feisty, they get an earful. I'm not feisty. I'm not spunky. I'm not strong. And so actually, what I would really like, and I don't know that anyone would agree with me, I'd like it to just not be there at all, because I would like the geography of a woman's birth certificate to not have any inflection, either positive or negative, particularly if the way we define those positives have in them a sense of, do you know, she's a woman, but she's ever so strong-minded. I mean, you know, we haven't progressed any further if we say that. So I would even be wary in my kind of pessimistic way of even trying to give it positive terms, because it's hard to do that without falling into the same traps. Sorry.
Right, Sadie?
What she said. I was desperately trying to rack my brains thinking of the words that I wouldn't absolutely hate, and then Sarah spoke and I'm like, yeah, I'm with her now, so no words. Thanks. Let's not have any words.
I disagree. Of course I do.
Syd, you've got 4 words.
Well, I'm not I'm not doing it in 4 words. I'm not going to be that reductive.
Okay.
I do think it's really important to counter the negative positive, and I do think I think it would be great to have I think it would be great if we could have a positive, iconic kind of idea or archetype, And I think as well that if you have if the Essex Girl becomes positive, if it becomes a positive idea, then it will last about 2 years, and then it will go, and then we won't have it anymore, because that's what happens when you have positive role models. You know, they're only around for a little bit. People want negative.
People would be really bored by it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of like use that to like face off all the negativity, and then once that's established, it'll go.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Okay, what was I going to? So the other thing, this is kind of a question I haven't asked before, but it's something that keeps coming up in virtual festival HQ, because Jo could appear at this point. Jo Hartwell, our festival coordinator. Jo's daughters raised the issue of, well, she raised the issue of what's an Essex Girl, them not being that aware of it, but also the issue of non-binary now. So where does the Essex Girl fit into the non-binary world?
Don't know.
No, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Any thoughts, Sarah and Sadie?
Well, it's kind of, it's exciting, I think, to see young people, and it does tend to be the younger generation having greater facility with this, but not only refusing to be defined by the perceptions of the kind of gender that they are, but to be refused to be defined by gender at all. And it is really interesting to me that, you know, there may come a time when it is so sort of old-fashioned or odd to think of yourself as a girl or a boy at all, that whether or not it's Essex Girl or Essex Boy becomes irrelevant. But at the same time, you can't escape from the fact that people born identified as a girl tend to face structural inequalities that people born identified as a boy don't. So we have to like kind of balance the two things together. But I don't know, but I'm interested is, I suppose, the answer to that.
I think
I'm really interested.
Quite fascinating, because I wasn't expecting that from both my girls. I've got 2 girls and a boy, so and I wasn't expecting it at all. And the eldest, my son, is 24, and then 17 and 12, and the 12-year-old hasn't even heard the term. So, and she's the one who has that is much more aware of binary, non-binary, where she fits, how she feels, and filling it out in the world. So I wonder if there is a change coming, you know what I mean? Because actually I thought it was quite interesting what you were saying about the dictionary, because actually maybe Essex Girl should be the outdated terminology used to describe women who were felt to act in a certain way. So I mean, across the country, because like even like Geordie girls, my husband is Scottish, it's same in Scotland, everyone's got a little, this like it's just that Essex Girls has been louder, you know what I mean? And Welsh,
really,
do you know what I mean? Valley Girls was in Wales, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I mean, maybe I think that's interesting, Jo, though. I mean, and also what Sarah was saying, you know, maybe it's this generation that are going to get rid of it that way, because they're not, you know, every generation kicks the bucket. Sorry, that's not the wrong fit. That's the wrong word. Actually, kicks everyone.
I think we get. I mean, I think if you're worrying about your gender and how
we're about gender.
You're already quite liberated in that thought process of, yes, we will be oppressed. There is going to be oppression. Do you know what I mean? In whatever those decisions that are made by this next generation, but actually, will it become a different fight? I don't know, a different oppression. I don't know.
So I
don't know. It's a real weird one as a 50-year-old to try and answer the 12-year-old. You know what I mean? I don't know the answer.
Surely you're not 50.
I'm not 50 actually. I'm 49. I just added a year on. It's easier to remember that way in centuries. No.
We have got some words coming in. We've got liberated, we've got empowered with a question mark, we've got unique. Julie said 500,000 Essex women, no common terms for them all, they're all different. 500,000, you know, it's a lot of women, isn't it?
I just think, you know, I'm sorry, I sound such an old bag, but, you know, if we said, oh, Essex girls are strong, loud,
you're right.
unapologetic, well, you know what? Some people aren't strong, you know, Some people aren't loud, that's fine. And I would like the idea of the Essex Girl to be so capacious and so flexible that even somebody who is by nature quiet, by nature doesn't want to shake things up, is still able to feel proud of it. So that's sort of, that's why I feel kind of slightly worried about it. Because really what we want is liberty for women of all, you know, people of all genders, but women from all different races, and to have no expectations or definitions, but to be valid and whole and precious regardless.
Nikki Wilson's come up with a really interesting question. She said, should we have a dictionary of stereotypes? Something that really makes these things explicit, as Essex Girls is just one of many, and shows them for the homogenizing and unhelpful images they are. The dictionary of stereotypes would be quite good, quite an interesting idea.
I don't know, because then it's something in print again, isn't it? So, and it, you know, the thing is, like media coverage, they never get subtlety and nuance. You know, they'll just go, Essex Girls say that they're like this, you know, just misinterpret it for a headline. I don't know.
Well, interestingly, Andrea from Metal has come in saying, is the drive to define types of women just an extension of control?
Yeah. I mean, we don't, you know, I really fight against the fact that I'm accused of writing strong female characters. I mean, how dare they? You know, that's not a good thing. Shakespeare wrote Hamlet as a weak, vacillating, petulant boy, and he could still be the eponymous hero of the story. But for a woman to carry a novel, she has to be a strong female character. You know, that's why you know, when I wrote Melmoth, my lead female character is really boring and dull because, you know.
Because there's that thing, isn't there, about, oh, she's a strong, feisty, sassy female character, like women aren't. You know, most women aren't like that.
Philip said, I've always felt that Essex Girls was not so much a geographical slur, but one of social class. Essex just happens to be the most traditionally working class of the home counties, and Essex Girls have always been visible in the city.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Andrea agrees.
Good observation. Good observation.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting short on time, so keep the questions going in. Andrea thinks it's definitely a class question. And that seems to fit in with what we've been talking about. We have got some Essex jokes. But I'm, you know, I was born in Ipswich, so I'm from Suffolk. I do, as I said before, I feel very uncomfortable about them, but they are very funny.
What's up? She says.
Exactly. No, it's awful, isn't it? This feels like some sort of weird, naughty pleasure, guilty pleasure here. So, Sarah, you came back very quickly when I sent them through earlier today.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, but I laughed like a drain at this. What does an Essex girl use for protection during sex? A bus shelter. But see, I don't know if Syd's going to tell it, but Syd has an Essex Girl joke that is not just a joke. It's an enormous political bombshell that's really shocking. I'm sort of putting Syd on the spot now, but like I've never seen anybody use an Essex Girl joke to show people how devastating Essex Girl jokes are the way Syd did it.
You want me to do it?
You don't have to.
Yeah,
I think you should. Yeah, it's important. It's really important.
Okay. So, well, this is just basically, this is my stock jokes. And I'm having a lovely kind of, you know, this morning, one show discussion in the media. So you're doing all of this work about Essex Girls and overturning stereotypes. Yes, we are. So what's your favourite Essex Girl joke then? Okay, it's this. What's the difference between a computer and an Essex Girl? I don't know. What is? Well, the answer is you only need to punch information into a computer once. There you go. So that's a joke that was told me in the 90s, I think. And when you get that, you do shut people up because So if you haven't been on the receiving end of some of these Essex Girl jokes, then you don't know what people say. You have no idea how they come across to you, and they're usually by men, who are older than you or like coming on to you. And you know, if you say that one back, then they usually sod off.
Yeah.
That's such a strange instinct, isn't it? Using something like that in the company of a woman and hoping it's going to have some sort of lucky effect on you.
Yeah.
Like, that's just,
yes, please buy me a drink now.
it's just crazy. So crazy.
And it's just such a good way of showing that mockery and violence are very close.
Yeah,
they're very close, you know, and it's work of art, that joke, provocative work of art. I'm shocked by it, and it's good that it should be told. Yeah.
Can I also say that is in print in the Essex Girls? There's a book called the Essex Girl Joke Book.
Yeah.
And it's in there.
That's in there, is it?
It's in there, and it's got a funny cartoon illustration of a blonde girl with big boobs, with a tiny miniskirt with black eyes.
What?
Oh God.
Oh, that's so bad.
Yeah.
Horrible. Yeah. Really horrible.
Yeah. Hilarious.
Hard to follow, Sadie.
Wow. This will have us all hooting. So I'll give you a bit of context to why I've chosen this one, because I found it really interesting. I was doing research about Helen Mirren a couple of years ago for a play, and I kind of wrote a very Helen Mirren-y type character in the play, and it's always kind of been sort of, you know, an Essex, a South End story, you know.
Oh.
She got away, and, you know, was immensely successful, and has always kind of, you know, turned her back on Essex, and, you know, there's the rumor that she called it the armpit of England and all of that. And when I was doing my research, I found this video of her telling this joke to an audience of American journalists who, you know, went crazy when she came on stage and called her their queen. And she said, "Oh, I'm not a queen, I'm an Essex girl." You know, and she did it all very coquettish. And then she said, "Do you know what an Essex girl is?" And they were all like, "Oh, whatever." And then she told this joke, and I was a bit mad at her, actually. I was like, "Helen, come on." And this was the joke. "How do you know when an Essex girl has had an orgasm? She drops her kebab." And Helen said chips. She swapped that. She swapped kebab for chips. But yeah, and it's just,
That's not even funny.
I mean, it's not funny. I mean, I don't find a lot of jokes funny anyway, but yeah, it's just terrible, isn't it? But I don't understand the compulsion to send yourself up as an Essex woman if you don't claim that identity. If you spent your whole career running away from that and kind of acting the opposite and whatever, I don't think you have the right to make those jokes.
Completely agree.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so we're running out of time here, and I want to know what you're all up to. So what's everyone doing? Sarah, what are you doing at the moment? I know you're writing.
Yeah, I'm working on my next novel, which is about 2 years late, but it's set in Essex, and it's set in I joke to my husband, it's set in the Essex Serpent extended universe. So it's a contemporary novel. It's nothing to do with the Essex Serpent, but the geography of the Essex Serpent is the same geography of this book, because I'm interested in creating my Essex, my villages, my rivers, my landscape. So it's been really wonderful kind of writing about my home, and it's about astronomy and physics as well. So, you know, that'll turn the pages.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
When's that due out? Or was that a really bad question?
I've got to finish it first, Ros.
Yeah.
I'm really late. I feel really bad, but there you go. It is what it is.
Difficult, challenging year, Sarah.
Yeah.
It's okay. You can let yourself off that. So Sadie, what are you up to?
I've just reached the end of a very, 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 very long first draft process of adapting a book for a West End show. So yeah, it's quite it's exciting. I'm not allowed to say what the book is, but it's been a really really amazing process actually, because it's just completely different skill set, adapting a book to, you know, starting with your own idea from scratch and kind of working up that way. I've kind of had to go through and do a lot more work, actually. A lot more work. Yeah. Yeah, so exciting. So we should be going into R&D in the next month for it, and get some actors in and work it in a room, which is be fun. Yeah,
Brilliant.
Good luck with that.
Thank
Syd, your book is out this week. It was out last week.
Yeah, so Strange Tricks is out. That is like the number 5 in the Essex Witch Museum mysteries. I've got a short stories collection coming out in October, which is also kind of like the universe of Addersfork, where the Witch Museum is. I've got to write another Essex Witch Museum novel, and I just signed a contract for a new series, which is also sort of in the Essex Witch Museum series, but it focuses on Septimus Strange, who set up the museum and what he did in the Second World War.
Fantastic.
It's historic, and I'm just about to start doing loads of research into all the kind of weird occult shenanigans that we got up to.
That's so exciting.
yeah.
And I'd love to be able to say that people can join you on your In My Steps Radical Walk next week. So
yes.
That was our fastest selling event.
Was it?
Sold out straight away.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Amazing.
You know,
Yeah, that would be great.
Everyone out there who hasn't got a ticket, but well done everyone who got in quick.
Yeah, there's literally no room at the inn.
Yes, of course. So that, I should have
we've
that
got loads of people on it, and there's a couple of us having to support her and her witchy ways.
So it's going to be, it's going to be very exciting.
And if you don't want to walk, bring your broomstick.
Oh, I've already packed it.
Maybe you should merchandise with broomsticks, Syd. You know, it's like
absolutely.
It seems like a good idea. Anyway, look, this has been a really enjoyable, fantastic launch event. I mean, normally we're in a great big venue and it's all really stressful, and you know, receptions and all sorts of stuff. And here we are sitting just having a chat, which is fantastic. So thank you so much for giving up your Sunday afternoon, Syd, Sarah and Sadie, and everyone else. And I don't know how to open everyone up, Jo, but I really think we should all give ourselves a clap for being here at the beginning of this year's Essex Book Festival.
Unmute yourselves. Just to say, in the chat, we've got the online bookshop, which has at the moment our Essex Girls. Each of our panels have their own lists, and we've got all of the girls' books in there. And Andrea as well, and the Estuary team have just shared some of the Estuary events that are happening in the next couple of weeks, which link in. There she is, as well, because we're working really closely this year with Metal and the Writers' House and Estuary, and it's so exciting that everything's happening at the same time. So so sorry, I just thought I'd let that, but have a look out. We're selling all our books online at the moment, so, and they support our independent bookshops locally and the festival as well, so we're trying to grow that. So if you've got a fancier list that you want us to put up there and you want us to see, email one of us and we'll get the list started, and then it gives money to the local bookshops rather than the big Amazonian ones. So
in the sky. So that's us done. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
We've started. It's great.
Well done. Hooray! Yay! Oh, well, we hope to see you soon. Take care, lovely people.
Thank you for having us.
No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah and Sadie.
Thank you.
It's so lovely to see you all.
Yeah,
See you all
Bye.
soon, I hope. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Oh, how it goes really fast. Oh, who's here?
They're going.
Hi, Camilla. Hi, Andrea.
Bye.
Oh, hi, Glenys, who's in St Ives.
Hello.
In St Ives swimming in pools. I saw that.
Hi, I can't do. Okay,
Hi, Phil. Sorry, hi, Phil. Look, he's all there, quiet in the corner. Yeah.
Great.
Can you say hello?
Thought I'd just observe.
Oh, well done. So did you put that observation in?
No, that was the other Phil.
That was different.
Another Phil. Oh, okay.
Phil, yeah.
Well done. Well
Thanks,
done.
everyone.
Okay.
Right,
Bye.
I'll speak to you later, Phil.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you for coming.
That was brilliant. That was good.
Everyone, that was really great.
Oh, no.
Brendan. Oh,
Brendan through the background. That's quite
oh
weird.
my God.
Where is he? And Joe Fridge is in there now.
A ghostly presence in the background.
Brendan, put your fist up.
Who's gone?
You're going to come in. Come
there
in.
he is.
Oh,
Well, thanks everyone. That was great. Thanks,
Okay.
Brendan. I love these ghosts. They're in this background. This is
I
just
know.
like
No, it's quite
How
cool.
do you get that background? I want that background.
You
That's
want? I'll
okay.
send it over to you. You can have it.
it's such a silly thing when people just walk through it at the back.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
You just stick
really
the head.
weird.
Right.
Anyway,
Okay.
I'm going to
Bye
go.
all.
Bye.
Well done, everybody. Joe, I'll talk to you about the walk next
Lots of love.
week. Bye, Roz.
Bye.
Bye.
Joe, I'll talk to you about the walk. I'll give you a call this week, yeah?
Yeah, cool. Well done, darling.
You were brilliant. You were great.
Who's this ghost? Who's this man? Well, Sarah, they're both great, aren't they?
Yeah, it was really good. It was really lovely.
It
Yeah.
went so quickly.
I know, didn't it?
It really flowed. I was kind of down there just like listening, and it was great. It was really interesting. I thought,
Isn't it funny though about the drummers? That's you've heard that. So
Yeah.
what's that? Is there a like stereotype about drummers being thick or something?
yeah, it's sort of
1, 2, 1, 2.
the butt of all the jokes sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realise that.
Yeah, it's like the hierarchy of that from the bottom up is drummers, then bass players, then lead guitarists,
Then
then
vocalists.
singers.
Bloody hell. I
Yeah.
never knew.
So I think these things are just like, they're just there and they're used by whatever faction wants to get against whatever faction. They're just like tools for having a go, and they can